Arlette Hollister is the food superintendent at the Iowa State Fair. Her role involves organizing all of the cooking competitions. Since taking charge in 1986, Arlette has helped the department grow into one of, if not, the largest in the nation.
Well, when we started out in 86, I think, there were 25 divisions, and they were giving $6,000. And now we have 239 divisions, and then there are 893 classes. And then they're giving a total of $64,815, and $52,361 of that is just special from sponsors. Everything is sponsored but one or two things, but everything else is sponsored by a group or a person. And then we have a lot of people that sponsor in memory of someone. Last year there were 26 entrants, and there were over 12,000 entries. We have some people that enter like 100 and 200 entries. You have to be an Iowa resident to enter in the food department.
Today, Arlette is confident in her role as food superintendent, but she remembers when she was offered the job more than 25 years ago, being apprehensive about taking on the responsibility.
I said, well, I want you to know that the only D I ever got in college was in home ec. I said, I'm not a home ec, I'm not a food science, I don't know anything about that. All I know about is that I like to bake and I like to cook, but I'm not a gourmet cook either.
Arlette still enjoys baking and prepared her never-failed Danish kringle in her home kitchen, where she also spends time organizing the State Fair food competition. After the fair, Arlette will take a short break before she dives back into the busy work of organizing next year's event.
In about September, I send letters out to the sponsors. I think there's 170 sponsors. I think that's what it is. And judges, oh, probably total maybe 100. As far as helpers, about 55. Some are volunteers, some are paid. They're not paid nearly what the work they do, because we have 4 judging booths going every day from 9 o'clock till 4 o'clock at night. So it takes a lot of people. It's long days, but I think you're running on adrenaline. You couldn't possibly do that 52 weeks out of the year. You couldn't do it. But you can for 11, 12 days. Most of us are over 70, but we're getting more younger people in there to help. I've got helpers that have worked there long enough that I don't have to worry about it. And like I tell them, once the fair starts, then my job is over. It's up to them, and they know just exactly what to do. I mean, so that it makes it just run like clockwork.
Ruth Marks has been a food department helper for more than 2 decades. However, her involvement with food at the fair dates back much further.
I'd had a lunch stand at the State Fair for 20 or 30 years, and I was getting tired of that and getting rid of it, so I thought, well, I guess State Fair is in my blood, so I found something else to do. Oh, I love to work with Arlette. That's all there is to it.
Like Arlette, Ruth's food department work begins well before the fair. In the summer, she helps organize many of the premiums. Most of this work is done quietly at her dining room table. During the fair, Ruth is at the center of a beehive of activity, helping check in the more than 12,000 entries.
Well, I enjoy the people more than anything else, and they'll come back and tell you what they got, if they got first or second or what on their product.
With nearly 900 classes of food contests to enter, it may be overwhelming for new people to get started.
I tell everybody the first time that they enter that it is addictive. And sure enough, the next year they said, you're right, it is addictive. I think it's a good idea for someone who's just starting out to just enter a few things.
Along with the more traditional categories, such as cakes and pies, there is a diverse range of more unique entry options.
We have like gluten-free, and then I try to do heart-healthy, too. And then particularly for kids, I try to have a lot of children's contests, because if we don't get them when they're young, someday we're not going to have anybody.
What did you name it?
The disgustingness.
Disgustingness?
Yeah.
While it would be difficult to measure just how many Iowa cooks have been inspired by the State Fair food competitions, it is easy to understand why Arlette and her helpers have dedicated so much of their time and energy to the cause.
You have a lot of people working together to accomplish something, and that's good. And then it's fun to plan something and then see it happen. and you love the fair and you want it to be a success. I mean, you do it because you love it.